Hey, what's up everyone? I hope you all are doing well. This is Jack from byprogrammers.com and welcome back to a brand new episode of Let's Code React Native. In this episode, we are going to build a beautiful online learning app based on a brand new UI design. As you can see here, there are quite a number of screens, such as the authentication screens over here. We have dashboard, search, course listing, course details, and so on and so forth. In addition to that, this project also comes with a dark theme as well. For that reason, we are going to split this project into a maximum of, I would say, 3 parts. For the first part, which is what we are going to cover later, we will be mainly focusing on the home screen, the search screen, and lastly will be the profile screen over here. Now, as a token of appreciation from us, if you were to get the source code of the first part of this project from shop.byprogrammers.com before we release the second part, you will be able to get the source code for the subsequent release entirely for free without any additional charges. Alright, now with that being said, let's get started. Okay, like I've mentioned earlier, for the first part of this project, we are going to build 3 different screens, which are the home screen, the search screen, and followed by the profile screen over here. So just like the previous episode, instead of creating the project from scratch, we have actually prepared a SAR template so that it will be a lot easier for you guys to follow along. So open up the SAR template, the link is in the description below, and go ahead, download the source code, and you should be able to get this. Alright, so over here, the first thing you need to do is to open up your terminal and run npm install. Next, you will need to run npx react native link. And lastly, you will need to cd into iOS and run pod install. Alright, now you can then navigate back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS, like that. Alright, so we have successfully run the SAR template. Let me hide the terminal. And as you can see here, this is just a very basic SAR template where I have included the assets folder, the constants folder, as well as a couple of empty screens over here. Alright, so the first screen that we'll be working on is the home screen over here. However, before we can work on each of these screens, which includes the home screen, the search screen, as well as the profile screen, we need to set up the main layout first. The reason being is because we are going to render each of these screens over here by using flat list component within the main layout screen. And by doing so, we will then be able to animate the tab indicator over here later on. Okay, so go back to your source code in the screens folder, dashboard, open up the main layout.js, and over here we are going to import a couple more components from React Native. So we need view, text, touchable opacity, image, and also animated. Next, we need to import from screens, like that. And for this, we need to import the home screen, the profile screen, and also the search screen. Next, we need to import from constants. And for this, we need colors, sizes, fonts, and also constants. Okay, now for the view, for the container view over here, we are going to give it a bit of styling, where the flex equals to 1 and also the background color equals to colors.white. Now for the main layout component, we are going to render 2 things. The first thing we are going to render over here is the content itself. Alright, the content itself. Next, we are going to render the bottom tab over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. I'm gonna get rid of this text component. And like I said, we need to render the content section and followed by the bottom tab section over here. Okay, so for the content section, we are going to render a new function called render content. Okay, and we are going to create this function over here. So for the render content function, we are going to return a container view give it a bit of styling. The flex should be equals to 1. Oops, like that. And within this container view, we are going to render the animated dot flatlist. Alright, the reason why we need to use the animated component over here is so that we can animate the tap indicator later on. Okay. Alright, so for the animated flatlist component, we need to first set the ref. So ref equals to flatlist ref. And we are going to create this ref variable over here. So constant flatlist ref equals to react dot use ref, like that. Alright, next it has to be horizontal, paging enabled, snap to alignment equals to center, snap to interval equals to sizes dot width, deceleration rate equals to fast, shows horizontal scroll indicator equals to false, data equals to constants dot bottom tabs, key extractor equals to item arrow function, and over here it's going to be main dash and followed by the item.id. Next, we need to make sure we get the scroll exposition as well. So on scroll equals to animated dot event native event content offset x, and we are going to set it into scroll x variable. And over here, I would like to specify the use native driver equals to false. Alright, next we need to create the scroll x animated variable over here. Alright, so constant scroll x equals to react.useRef, and the initial value is going to be new animated dot value 0, and over here it's going to be dot current, like that. Alright, next we need to work on the render item prop. So render item equals to item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return a container view like that with a bit of styling, where the height equals to sizes.height and the width equals to sizes.width. Now within this container view, we are going to check if the item.label equals to constants.screens.home, then we are going to render the home screen like that. Alright, if the item.label equals to constants.screens.search, then we are going to render the search component or the search screen, right? And lastly, if the item.label equals to constants.screens.profile, then we are going to render the profile screen. Alright, now save it. Alright, so as you can see here, the home screen is being rendered, and we can actually scroll to the search screen and also the profile screen over here. Perfect. Alright, so that's all for the render content function for now. Next, we are going to work on the bottom tab section over here. And if you pay close attention to the bottom tab component, you can actually see that there are some shadow effects surrounding the component. So to make things easier, we are going to make use of a library called React Native Shadow 2. Alright, so scroll down over here. I'm going to copy this. You can use yarn if you want to. And go back to your source code, open up the terminal, paste it, and hit enter. Alright, now I'm going to close the app. Next, I'm going to cd into iOS and run pod install. Alright, now navigate back to the root directory and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, now in the main layout screen, let me hide the terminal, scroll to the top. Over here, I'm going to import from React Native Shadow 2. Alright, and over here we are going to import the shadow like that. And now that I'm here, I'm going to set up the bottom tabs array as well. Alright, so if we take a look at the mock, we basically have 3 bottom tabs, which are the home tab, search, as well as the profile. Alright, so go back to your source code. Over here, we can actually create a variable called constant bottom tabs like that equals to constants dot bottom tabs. Now, in order to make sure we can animate the tab indicator over here, we need to inject what we call the ref variable into each of these array item. Alright, so to do that, we are going to make use of the map method like this. Bottom tab, arrow function, and over here we are going to return the bottom tab like that, and we are going to inject the ref variable. Alright, so ref equals to react.create ref, like that. Alright, next we need to scroll down over here for the bottom tab component. For the bottom tab section, we are going to render a new function called render bottom tab. Alright, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render bottom tab, and we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. For the margin bottom, it's going to be 20. Padding horizontal, it's going to be sizes.padding. Padding vertical is going to be sizes.radius. Alright, now within this container view, we are going to render the shadow component, right? So shadow, we are going to supply a prop called size. So size equals to array of sizes.width minus sizes.padding multiplied by 2. And the second item of this array is going to be 85. So what this means is that the height of this shadow component should be equals to 85, and the width of this shadow component should be equals to sizes.width minus sizes.padding multiplied by 2. Alright, now within this shadow component, we are going to render a view with a bit of styling, where the flex equals to 1, border radius equals to sizes.radius, and the background color should be equals to colors.primary tree. Alright, now save it. Oh, I'm sorry, the reason why this is not working is because in order for us to use the React Native Shadow 2 library, we need to first install the React Native SVG. Alright, so go back to your source code. Over here, I'm going to run npm install React Native SVG. Alright, next I'm going to close the app as usual. And now I'm going to cd into iOS and run pod install. Next, I'm going to cd back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, perfect, so we have the shadow component in place. Next, we are going to render each of these bottom tabs over here. Alright, so in order to do that, over here within the view component, let me hide the terminal. We are going to render a custom component called tabs, like that. And we are going to supply the scroll X over as the prop, like that. Alright, next we need to create this tabs custom component over here, right above the main layout component. Alright, so constant tabs equals to, for this component we need one prop for now, which is the scroll X, followed by the arrow function. Alright, and over here we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. Alright, so flex equals to 1 and flex direction equals to row. Alright, now within this view component, we are going to make use of the map method to render each of the bottom tabs over here. Alright, so we are going to render the tabs. Here it's going to be bottom tabs.map item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the touchable opacity component, where the key is going to be bottom tab dash index. The ref is going to be item.ref. Style is going to be flex equals to 1. Padding horizontal equals to 15. Align item, align items equals to center. Justify content equals to center as well. We are going to work on the onPress later on, so don't worry about it for now. Okay, next within the touchable opacity component, we need to render an image followed by the text component. Alright, so over here we have the image component, where the source is going to be item.icon. Resize mode equals to contain. Style will be width 25 and height 25 as well. After the image component, we have the text component. Here it's going to be item.label. Give it a bit of styling as well. Alright, margin top equals to 3, color equals to white, and the font will be H3. Alright, now save it. Alright, perfect. So we have successfully rendered the bottom tabs. Next, we are going to work on the tab indicator over here. And since we need to animate the tab indicator later on, we need to make use of the measure layout to get the X position as well as the width of each of these tabs. Alright, so go back to your source code. Within the tabs component, we need two things. Alright, so we need container ref, so constant container ref equals to react.useRef. And we are going to set the container ref over here. Alright, so ref equals to container ref. Next, we need the measure layout state. So constant measure layout, set measure layout equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be an empty array. Now, in order to calculate the X and the width of each of these bottom tabs, we need to make use of the use effect hook over here. So react.use effect, and over here is going to be an arrow function, and we are going to listen to container ref.current. Oops, sorry. .current, like that. Alright. Now over here, I'm going to first declare an empty array like this. And next, we are going to loop through each of these bottom tabs and make use of measure layout to get the X position as well as the width of each of these bottom tabs. Alright. So bottom tabs dot for each bottom tab followed by the arrow function, and here we are going to access the ref variable of each of these tabs. Alright, so bottom tab dot ref dot current dot measure layout, and we are going to measure it against the container ref, so container ref dot current, and over here we are going to retrieve the X value, the X position, the Y position, the width as well as the height, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to push it into our empty array over here. Alright, so ml.push X, Y, width and height, like that. Alright, so if the ml.length is equals to bottom tabs dot length, which means I've already gathered all the information I need, then I'm going to set measure layout, and over here it's going to be ml, like that. Alright, now that we have all the information we need, we can then render the tab indicator over here. Alright, so we are going to render the tab indicator. If the measure layout.length is more than 0, then we are going to render a custom component called tab indicator. And over here we will be supplying two props, which are the measure layout equals to measure layout, and the scroll X equals to scroll X. Alright, next we are going to create the tab indicator custom component over here. Alright, so constant tab indicator, and for this component we will be taking in two props, which are the measure layout followed by the scroll X. Alright, so over here it's going to be an arrow function, and we are going to return an animated view component. Alright, so give it some styling, where the position should be equals to absolute, left equals to 0, height equals to 100%, width equals to, I'm going to set it to, let's say 80 for now. We are going to animate this later on. Alright, border radius equals to sizes.radius, background color equals to colors.primary. Alright, now save it. The tab indicator is not showing. I think I made a mistake somewhere over here. Yep, a bit of typo, right? ml.length, like that. Save it, and I'm going to reload the app one more time. Perfect. Now all we need to do is to animate the tab indicator based on the selected screen over here. Alright, so in order to do that, we are going to make use of the interpolate method. Okay, so we need to first set up the input range. So constant input range equals to bottom tabs dot map underscore I followed by the arrow function I multiplied by sizes dot width. By using this input range, we can then calculate the output range for tab indicator width, right? Equals to scroll X dot interpolate And over here, it's going to be input range followed by the output range. Alright, so for the output range, we are going to retrieve the width from the measure layout. So measure layout dot map. Over here is going to be measure followed by arrow function measure dot width. Next, we need to do the same thing, just that we need to calculate the translate x for now. This is so that we can change the x position of the tab indicator later on. Alright, so constant translate x, scroll x, interpolate, the input range and the output range is going to be measure dot x, like that. Alright, next I'm going to replace the width with tab indicator width, and I'm going to set the transform equals to translate x, like that. Alright, now save it. Okay, if I were to scroll the flat list over here, the tab indicator should be animated accordingly. Sweet. Alright, so we are almost done with the bottom tabs. All we need to do now is to set the scroll enable to false, and we need to work on the unpress prop over here as well. Alright, so scroll down over here. For the animated flat list component, I'm going to set the scroll enable to false. Alright, next, by clicking on any of these bottom tabs, the flat list over here should be scrolled accordingly. Alright, and in order to do that, we are going to make use of the use callback hook. Alright, so over here, we are going to create a constant variable called on bottom tab press equals to react.use callback, and over here it's going to be bottom tab index followed by the arrow function, and over here we are going to access to the flat list ref dot current dot scroll to offset, and the offset should be equals to bottom tab index multiplied by sizes dot width, like that. Alright, next we are going to pass the on bottom tab press to the tabs component over here. Alright, so on bottom tab press equals to on bottom tab press. Next, of course, we need to include it in the tabs component over here. Alright, so we have scroll x and also we have on bottom tab press. And next, all we need to do is to supply the onPress prop for the touchable opacity. Alright, so onPress equals to arrow function, and here we are going to call the on bottom tab press and pass the index over, right? Save it. Now we wouldn't be able to scroll the flat list as you can see here, but if we were to click on any of these bottom tabs, the flat list should be scrolled accordingly, just like that. Perfect. Alright, so we have completed the main layout screen. Next, we are going to work on the home screen over here. Okay, now go back to your source code, open up the home.js file. Over here, we are going to import a couple more components from React Native. Alright, so we need view, text, image background, image, and also scroll view. Right. After this, we need to import from React Native gesture handler. Right, for this we need the flat list. The reason why we need to use the flat list component from React Native gesture handler instead of React Native is so that we won't have any issues when we work on the horizontal flat list over here, especially these two components, these two sections. All right. Okay. After this, we need to import from constants. We need colors. We need fonts, sizes, icons, images, and also dummy data. Alright, now for the container view over here, we need to give it a bit of styling. The flags should be equals to 1 and the background color should be equals to colors.white. Alright, now save it. Now for the home screen, we can first divide it into two main sections, which are the header section over here and followed by the content section over here, which will later be wrapped within the scroll view component. Alright, now go back to your source code. I'm going to get rid of this text component, and over here we need to render the header section and followed by the content section. Right, so for the header section, we are going to render a new function called render header, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render header, and we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. Alright, flex direction equals to row, margin top equals to 40, margin bottom equals to 10, padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding, and align item equals to center, like that. Alright, now within the header section, we have the greeting section over here and followed by the notification button over here. Alright, so we have the greetings and followed by the notification, right? So for the greeting section, we are going to render another view with a bit of styling. Flags should be equals to 1, and within this container view for greeting section, we are going to render 2 text components. Alright, so for the first text component, it's going to be hello by programmers, right? And the style fonts is going to be H2, like that. Next over here, I'm going to simply hard code it to Thursday 9th of September 2021, like that. Alright, give it a bit of styling as well. Color is going to be colors.gray50, and the fonts will be fonts body tree, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, so the greeting section is in place. Next, we are going to work on the notification button over here. And in order to achieve this, we are going to create a custom component called icon button. Alright, so over here, I am going to first, I'm going to first create a folder called components, right? And over here, we are going to create a new file called icon button.js. Same thing, we are going to import from React, we are going to import from React Native, and for this we need touchable opacity, and also we need image, right? Next, we need to import from constants, and for this we need colors. Alright, now for the functional component, constant icon button, we will be taking in 4 props, which are container style, icon, icon style, and onPress, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something, right? Don't forget we need to export default icon button over here. Alright, so for this, we will be returning a touchable opacity, where the style will be the container style, like this, and onPress equals to onPress. Alright, now within the touchable opacity, we are going to render the image component, where the source is going to be icon, resize mode equals to contain, and style will be width 30, height 30, thin color is going to be white, and the icon style will be included like this as well. Alright, save it. Next, within the components folder, we need to create a new file called index.js. Alright, so over here we need to import from icon button, and over here it's going to be icon button. Don't forget we need to export it over here like this. Alright, save it. Now navigate back to the hom.js file, scroll to the top. Over here, I'm going to import from components, right? And for this, we need the icon button. Alright, now navigate back to the notification section. Over here, we are going to render the icon button component. And for this, the icon is going to be icon.notification, and the icon style is going to be thin color equals to black. Alright, now save it. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so that's all for the header section. Next, for the content section, we are going to wrap everything, alright, everything over here within a scroll view component. Alright, so we are going to render the scroll view component over here. For the scroll view component, the content container style, padding bottom is going to be 150, and the shows vertical scroll indicator should be equals to false. Alright, now for the scroll view, for the content section, the first thing we need to render is the start learning section over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. We are going to first render the start learning section. And for this, we are going to render a new function called render start learning. And we are going to create this function over here, right? Yep, over here. So function render start learning, and we are going to return an image background component where the source is going to be images.featured background image. Style is going to be align items equals to flex start. Margin top equals to sizes.padding. Margin horizontal equals to sizes.padding as well. And padding equals to 15, like that. Alright, now save it. Okay, the image background is in place, just that I need the border radius as well. So to do that, we need the image style prop. Alright, so border radius equals to sizes.radius. Okay, save it. Sweet. Now within the start learning section, we have the info section. Actually, we have an image section over here, but I'm not sure why the Figma is not showing. But don't worry, we have the info section followed by the image section, and lastly we have the button section over here. Alright, so we have the info section followed by the image section, and lastly we have the button section. So for the info section, we are going to render a container view, and within this container view we need 3 text components. Alright, so for the first one, we are going to render how to. Give it a bit of styling. Color is going to be white, and the font is going to be body 2. Next, for the second text component, we are going to render make your brain more visible with our checklist. Give it a bit of styling as well. Color is going to be white, and the font is going to be H2. And for the third and last text component over here, we are going to render by Scott Harris. Give it a bit of styling as well. Margin top equals to sizes.radius. Color equals to white, and the fonts equals to body 4. Alright, save it. Perfect. Next, we are going to work on the image section, and to do that we need to render the image component, right? Where the source is going to be images.start learning. Style will be width 100%, height 110, and lastly for the margin top is going to be sizes.padding. Alright, save it. Perfect. And for the button over here, we are going to create a custom component called text button. Alright, so go back to your source code. Within the components folder, we are going to create a new file called text button, right? Same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need touchable opacity, and also we need text, right? Next, we need to import from constants, and for this we need fonts and also colors. After this, we can then create the functional component. So constant text button, and for this component we need 5 props, which are the content container style, disable, label style, and lastly will be the unpress, right? Followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget we need to export the default text button like that. Alright, so over here we are going to return the touchable opacity. Give it a bit of styling. Align item equals to center. Justify content equals to center as well. Background color equals to colors.primary. And we are going to include the content container style over here. Disable is going to be disable, and the unpress is going to be unpress. Alright. Now within this touchable opacity, we are going to render the text component. So but here we are going to render the label. Now give it a bit of styling as well. Color is going to be white. Font is going to be H3, and we are going to include the label style like that. Alright, save it. Next, we need to include the text button component over here in the index.js file. Simply copy and paste it and change it to text button. Don't forget we need to export it over here. Alright, now save it. Okay, navigate back to the hom.js file, scroll to the top. Over here we need to import the text button as well. Now go back to the start learning section. Over here for the button, we are going to render text button component, where the label is going to be start learning, content container style, height is going to be 40, padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding, border radius is going to be 20, background color is going to be colors.white. Alright, so for the label style, color is going to be colors.black, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Next, we are going to work on the courses section over here. Okay, so go back to your source code. Over here, after the start learning section, we are going to render the courses section. So for this, we need a new function called render courses, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render courses, and for this we are going to return a flat list component like that. It has to be horizontal. Data is going to be dummy data dot courses list 1. We need to supply the list key as well. It's going to be courses key extractor. Over here we have item followed by arrow function, and it's going to be courses dash item.id, and the show horizontal scroll indicator should be equals to false. The content container style is going to be margin top sizes.padding. And next we need to work on the render item prop. So render item, over here we have item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return a custom component called vertical course card. Alright, so basically the vertical course card component consists of the a couple of image components followed by the text components as well. Alright, so go back to your source code and the components folder. The first thing we need to do is to create a new file called vertical course card. Same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need view, text, image, and also touchable opacity. Next, we need to import from constants, and for this we need sizes, colors, fonts, and also icons. After this, we can then create the functional component, so constant vertical course card. And for this component, we need two props, which are the container style and course, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default vertical course card. So over here, we are going to return a touchable opacity, give it a bit of styling. Width is going to be 270, and we are going to include the container style over here as well. Alright, so for the vertical course card component, the first thing we need to render is the image component over here. Alright, so the first thing we need to render is the thumbnail, and for this we need to render the image component. Right, the source is going to be course.thumbnail, resize mode equals to cover, style will be width 100%, height 150, margin bottom is going to be sizes.radius, and border radius is going to be sizes.radius as well. Alright, next I would like to test the component and see if it's working properly. Alright, so save it, navigate to the index.js file. Over here I'm going to simply copy and paste it and change it to vertical course card. Don't forget, we need to export it over here. Now navigate back to the home.js file, scroll to the top. Over here we need to import the vertical course card from the components as well. Alright, now navigate back to the render courses function. Over here for the render item prop, we are going to return the vertical course card. For the container style, margin left, if the index equals to 0, which means if it's the first item, then margin left is going to be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it's going to be sizes.radius. For margin right, if the index is equals to dummy data dot courses underscore list underscore 1 dot length -1, which means if it's the last item, then margin right is going to be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it's going to be 0. Right, next for the course prop, we are going to pass the item over just like that. Alright, save it. Oh, I'm sorry, the reason why this is not working is because I forgot to install a library called React Native Gesture Handler. So from the official documentation, I'm gonna scroll down over here, copy this, you can use Yarn if you want to, and paste it in your terminal. Next, I'm going to close the app. And then I'm going to cd into iOS and run pod install. Alright, now I'll cd back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, perfect, so we have successfully rendered the vertical course card component. Alright, next I'm going to navigate back to the vertical course cut .js file. I'm gonna hide the terminal and I'm going to continue to build the detail section over here. Alright, so for the detail section, we have the play icon on the left and followed by the info section on the right. Okay, so go back to your source code. After the thumbnail, we have the detail section, right? So for the detail section, we are going to render a container view with a bit of styling. Flags direction should be equals to row, right? And over here, we have the play icon followed by the info section, right? So for the play icon, we are going to render a view with a bit of styling, okay? Width equals to 45, height equals to 45 as well, align item equals to center, justify content equals to center, border radius equals to 25, and the background color is going to be colors.primary. Alright, and within this container view, we are going to render the image component, where the source is going to be icons.play, resize mode is going to be contain, and the style width is going to be 20, height is going to be 20 as well. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so the play icon is in place. Next, we are going to work on the info section. Alright, so for this, we need another view as well with a bit of styling. Flags shrink equals to 1 and padding horizontal equals to sizes.radius. Right, so over here, we are going to first render the course title. Right, so we need a text component and we will be rendering the course.title. Give it a bit of styling. Flags equals to 1. The font should be equals to H3 and I would like to override the font size to 18. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so the course title is in place. Next, we are going to work on the duration section over here. And for this, we are going to create a custom component called icon label. Right, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called iconlabel.js. Alright, same thing, we need to import from React. We need to import from React Native. We need view, image, and text. After this, we need to import from constants. We need fonts, sizes, and also colors, right? Next, we can then create the functional component. So constant icon label equals to, and for this component, we need 5 props, which are container style, icon, icon style, label, and label style, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Next, don't forget we need to export the default icon label over here. Alright, so for this component, we will be returning a container view with a bit of styling. Flags direction equals to row, align item equals to center, and we are going to include the container style over here. Right, now within the view, we are going to first render the image component for the icon. Alright, so we need image component, where the source is going to be icon, and the style will be width 20, height 20, tint color equals to colors.grade30. And of course, we need to include the icon style over here. Alright, next we need to render the text component. Alright, so for this, we'll be rendering the label with a bit of styling. Margin left is going to be sizes.base, color is going to be colors.grade30, and the fonts will be body tree. Don't forget we need to include the label style over here as well, just like that. Alright, save it. Next, don't forget we need to include it in the index.js file. So same thing, I'm going to just simply copy and paste it like this and change it to icon label, and I will export it over here as well. Save it. Now navigate back to the vertical course card component, scroll to the top. Over here, I'm going to import from components, and for this we need the icon label. Alright, so after the title section over here, I'm going to render the icon label component. So for this, the icon is going to be icons.time, label is going to be course.duration, and the container style margin top is going to be sizes.base. Alright, now save it. Perfect. Okay, so after the course section, next we need to add a line divider over here. Right, so in order to achieve this, we are going to create a custom component called line divider. Okay, so go back to your source code. In your components folder, we need to create a new file called line divider. Same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and for this we need the view component. Next we need to import from constants, and for this we need colors. Alright, after this we can then create the functional component. So constant line divider equals to, and for this component we need only one prop, and that is the line style. Okay, so followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget we need to export default line divider. Alright, so over here we'll be returning a view like this. Give it a bit of styling. Height should be equals to 2, width equals to 100%, background color equals to colors.grade20, and we are going to include the line style over here as well. Alright, save it. Next, we need to include the line divider component in the index.js file. So same thing, I'm going to simply copy and paste it, change it to line divider. Alright, don't forget we need to export it over here, save it. Next, we need to navigate back to the home screen, scroll to the top. Over here we need to import the line divider, and scroll down over here in the scroll view. After the courses section, we need to render the line divider. Alright, so for this we need to supply the line style, where the margin vertical should be equals to sizes.padding. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay, so after the line divider, next we'll be working on the categories section. And if you take a look at the category and also the popular courses section, they are actually quite similar, where we have the title on the left and followed by the CO button on the right. And also we have the children, which is the listing section over here, right? So for that reason, we can actually create a custom component called section. Alright, so go back to your source code, scroll to the top. Right before the home functional component, we are going to create the section component. So constant section, and for this we need 4 props. So we need container style, we need title, we need unpress, and also we need children, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. And here we are going to simply include the container style like this. Next, we need another view for the header section over here, where we have the title on the left and followed by the button on the right. So give it a bit of styling, where the flex direction equals to row, and the padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding. Alright, and over here the first thing we need to render is the text component for the title, right? So over here we have the title, give it a bit of styling as well. Flex equals to 1, and the font should be equals to H2. Next, we need to render the CO button over here, right? So for that, we can actually make use of the text button component, where the content container style is going to be width at the border radius equals to 30, background color equals to colors.primary. The label is going to be CO, and the unpress equals to unpress. Alright, save it. Now we can then work on the category section over here. Alright, so scroll down over here. After the line divider, we are going to render the categories section. Alright, so for this, we are going to render a new function called render categories. And we are going to simply create this function over here. So function render categories, and we are going to return the section component that we have just created, where the title is going to be categories. Right? Save it. Okay, cool. So we have the section in place. Next, we can then work on the content of the categories section. Alright, so for the categories section, we will be making use of the flat list component, where it has to be horizontal. Data is going to be dummy data.categories. List key is going to be categories. Key extractor, it's going to be item followed by the arrow function, and categories dash item.id. Shows horizontal scroll indicator should be equals to false. Content container style, margin top should be sizes.radius. And lastly, we are going to work on the render item prop. So over here we have item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return a custom component called category card, which consists of an image background and followed by the category title over here. Right, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we need to create a new file called category card. Same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need touchable, opacity, we need text, and also we need image background. Next, we need to import from constants. We need colors, fonts, and also sizes. Alright. Then after this, we can then create the category card functional component. So constant category card. And for this component, we need two props, which are category and also container style. Right, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default category card. Right, so over here we are going to return a touchable opacity, and within the touchable opacity we will have the image background component, where the source is going to be category.thumbnail, resize mode equals to cover, style will be height 150, width 200, padding vertical equals to sizes.padding, padding horizontal equals to sizes.radius, justify content equals to flex n, and we are going to include the container style over here as well. Next, I'm going to test if this component is working properly, so save it first, and we need to include it in the index.js file. Same thing, I'm going to simply copy, paste it, and change it to category card. Right? Don't forget, we need to export it over here. Next, we need to save it first. Then we need to navigate back to the home screen, scroll to the top. Over here, we need to import the category card component. Go back to the render category function. Over here in the render item prop, we are going to render the category card component, right? Where the category equals to item, and for the container style, margin left if the index equals to 0, which means if it's the first item, then the margin left is going to be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it's going to be sizes.base. For the margin right, if the index equals to dummy data dot categories dot length -1, which means if it's the last item, then the margin right is going to be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it's going to be 0. Alright, save it. Okay, that's weird. The category card component is not showing. Let me check the section component. Oh, it's because we didn't include the children. We didn't render the children prop. So after this view, we should render the children prop like this. Alright, save it. Okay, perfect. Next, we can then navigate back to the category card component to work on the category title over here. Okay, so within the image background, we need to render a text component, and here it's going to be category.title, right? Give it a bit of styling. The color should be equals to white, and the font should be equals to H2. Okay, save it. Perfect. Okay. Next, we are going to work on the popular courses section. Alright, and same thing, we are going to make use of the section component. Okay, so go back to your source code, navigate back to the hom.js file, scroll down over here. After the category section, we are going to render the popular courses section, right? So for this, we are going to render a new function called render popular courses. Same thing, we are going to create this function over here, function render popular courses, and we are going to return the section component where the title is going to be popular courses, and the container style is going to be margin top 30, right? Save it. Okay. Now within the section component for the popular courses section, we are going to make use of the flat list. Data is going to be dummy data dot courses list underscore 2. List key is going to be popular courses. Scroll enable equals to false. Key extractor equals to item followed by the arrow function popular courses dash item.id. Content container style for the margin top is going to be sizes.radius. Padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding. Alright, now for the render item prop. Alright, same thing, we have the item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return a custom component called horizontal course card, where we have the thumbnail on the left and followed by the details or the info section on the right. Okay, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called horizontal course card. Same thing, we need to import from React. We need to import from React Native. We need view, text, image background, and touchable opacity. Next, we need to import from components. For this, we need icon label. And after this, we need to import from constants. And for this, we need sizes, colors, fonts, and icons. Alright, after this, we can then create the functional component. So constant horizontal course card. For this component, we will be taking in two props, which are container style and course, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default horizontal course card, right? So for this, we are going to return a touchable opacity, give it a bit of styling, flex direction equals to row, and we are going to include the container style over here. Alright, so within the touchable opacity, the first thing we need to render is the thumbnail section, right? So we have the thumbnail over here. And for this, we are going to make use of the image background component, where the source is going to be course.thumbnail. Resize mode equals to cover. Style will be width 130, height 130, and margin bottom equals to sizes.radius. Alright, and for the image style, border radius is going to be sizes.radius. Alright, now let's see if it works. Save it. Don't forget, we need to include it in the index.js file. Same thing, I'm going to simply copy and paste it. Change it to horizontal course card. Over here, we need to export it as well. Save it. Now navigate back to the home screen. Over here, scroll to the top. We need to import horizontal course card over here, and navigate back to the popular courses function. For the render item prop, we are going to render horizontal course card, where the course is going to be item, and container style, margin vertical is going to be sizes.padding, margin top, if the index equals to 0, if it's the first item, then the margin top is going to be sizes.radius. If it's not, then it's going to be sizes.padding. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Alright, next we are going to work on the favorite icon over here. Okay, so go back to the horizontal course card component. Within the image background, we are going to render a view with a bit of styling, where the position should be equals to absolute, top equals to 10, right equals to 10, width equals to 30, height equals to 30, align item equals to center, justify content equals to center as well, border radius equals to 5, and the background color equals to colors.white. Alright, now within this view, we are going to render the image component, where the source is going to be icons.favorite, resize mode equals to contain, style will be width 20, height 20. For the thin color, if the course is favorite equals to true, then the thin color is going to be colors.secondary, or else it's going to be colors.additional color 4, like that. Alright, save it. Sweet. Okay, next we are going to work on the detail section over here. Alright, so after the image background component, we are going to render the detail section, right? So for this, we are going to render a view with a bit of styling, where the flex equals to 1 and margin left equals to sizes.base. Now within the detail section, the first thing we need to render is the course title, right? So over here we have the title, and it's going to be a text component, where we are going to render the course.title, right? Give it a bit of styling, where the font should be equals to H3, and I would like to override the font size to 18. Alright, save it. Okay, so the title's in place. Next, we are going to work on the instructor and duration section, right? So after the title section, we are going to work on the instructor and duration section. So for this, we need another view with a bit of styling. Flex direction should be equals to row, align item equals to center, and margin top is going to be sizes.base. Now over here, we are going to first render a text component for the instructor. Alright, so here it's going to be by course.instructor. Give it a bit of styling. The font should be equals to body 4. Alright, save it. Okay, next we are going to work on the duration, right? So for the duration, we are going to make use of the icon label component, where the icon equals to icons.time, label equals to course duration, container style is going to be margin left sizes.base, icon style is going to be width 15 and height 15. And lastly, for the label style, the font should be equals to body 4, like that. Alright, save it. Sweet. Alright, so after the instructor and duration section, the last section will be the price and rating section. Okay, so after this, after the instructor and duration section, we are going to render the price and rating section. So for this, we need another container view with a bit of styling, where the flex direction should be equals to row, align item should be equals to center, margin top should be equals to sizes.base. Alright, now within this container view, we are going to first render the price, so we need a text component. Here it's going to be $, followed by course.price.toFix to 2 decimal places. Right, and over here the style will be fonts will be H2, and the color is going to be primary. Alright, save it. Okay, the price is in place. Next, we are going to work in the ratings, and we will make use of the icon label component. Alright, so after the text component, we are going to render the icon label, right? Where the icon equals to icons.star, label is going to be course.ratings, container style, margin left is going to be sizes.base. For the icon style, width equals to 15, height equals to 15, and the tint color is going to be colors.primary 2. And lastly, for the label style, margin left is going to be 5, color is going to be colors.black, and the font is going to be H3. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. So we are almost there. All we need to do now is to render the line divider in between over here, right? So go back to the home screen. After the render item prop, we can actually make use of the item separator component, right? So for this, we are going to return a line divider where the line style background color is going to be colors.gray20. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so that's all for the home screen. Next, we are going to move on to the search screen. So for the search screen, we have the search bar on top, followed by the top searches section, and lastly we have the browse category section. We will be working on the top searches and followed by the browse category section first. Now the reason why we are leaving the search bar to the last is because I would like to animate the search bar later on. Alright, so go back to the source code. Let me close all the other files. Next, we need to open up the search file over here. Alright, and we need to import a couple more components from React Native. We need view, text, image, and also text input. Right? After this, we need to import from React Native Shadow 2. Right? We need these for the search bar later on. We need to import from React Native gesture handler, and for this we need the flat list. Next, we need to import from components. Right? We need text button and category card. Okay, and lastly we need to import from constants, and for this we need colors, fonts, sizes, icons, and also dummy data. Now that I'm here, I'm going to import from the React Native reanimated library as well. In order not to complicate things up, I have already set up the React Native reanimated beforehand in the star template. So all you need to do is to import from React Native reanimated. So if you would like to know how to set up the React Native reanimated library, you can actually search it up on their official documentation over here. Alright, so for this we need to import animated, and over here we need extrapolate, we need interpolate, we need use animated scroll handler, and we need use animated style, and lastly we need use shared value. Okay, now for the view container, give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, and the background color should be equals to white, like that. Next, we need to wrap these two sections, which are the top searches and also the browse category section, within an animated scroll view. The reason why it has to be animated is so that we can animate the search bar over here later on. Alright, so I'm gonna get rid of the text component and change it to animated.scrollView. Over here, we need to supply the ref equals to scroll view ref, and we are going to create this ref variable over here. So constant scroll view ref equals to react.use ref, like that. Alright, next, for the content container style, margin top is going to be 100 because we need some spaces for the search bar later on. Padding bottom is going to be 300. Alright, after this, the shows vertical scroll indicator should be equals to false. Scroll event throttle should be equals to 16. Keyboard dismiss mode is going to be on drag, and we are going to work on the on scroll and also the on scroll and drag later on. Alright, now within the scroll view, we are going to first render the top searches section. Alright, so over here we have this top searches section, and for this we are going to render a new function called render top searches. And same thing, we are going to create this function over here. So function render top searches. For this, we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling, where the margin top is going to be sizes.padding. And the first thing we need over here is the title. Alright, so we need a text component that renders top searches. Give it a bit of styling as well, where the margin horizontal is going to be sizes.padding and the font is going to be H2. Alright, save it. Alright, after the title, we are going to render a flat list underneath, right? Okay, so after the text component, we are going to render the flat list component. And for this, it has to be horizontal. Data is going to be dummy data dot top searches. List key is going to be top searches. Key extractor is going to be item followed by the arrow function top searches dash index item dot id, right? Shows horizontal scroll indicator should be equals to false, and the content container style margin top should be equals to sizes dot radius. And lastly, for the render item prop, same thing, we have item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the text button component, right? Because all these are actually text button. Alright, now for the text button, the label is going to be item.label, content container style, padding vertical is going to be sizes.radius, padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding. For margin left, if the index equals to 0, which means if it's the first item, then it's going to be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it's going to be sizes.radius. For margin right, if the index equals to dummy data dot top searches dot length -1, which means if it's the last item, then it's going to be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it's going to be 0. For the border radius, it's going to be sizes dot radius. For the background color, it's going to be colors.gray10. Alright, next for the label style, color is going to be colors.gray50, and the font is going to be H3. Alright, save it. Perfect. Great. Alright, next we are going to work on the browse category section. So go back to your source code over here. After the render top searches function, we are going to render the browse category, right? And for this, we are going to render a new function called render browse categories. Same thing, we are going to create this function over here. So function render browse categories, and we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling, where the margin top should be equals to sizes.padding. And over here, the first thing we need to render is the title as well over here, okay? So we need to render the text component. Here it's going to be browse categories. Give it a bit of styling. Margin horizontal should be equals to sizes.padding, and the font should be equals to H2. Alright, save it. Okay, next we are going to work on the listing over here. And in order to achieve that, we are going to make use of the flat list. Alright. So for the data, it's going to be dummy data dot categories. Number of columns should be equals to 2. Scroll enable should be equals to false. List key should be equals to browse categories. Key extractor, it's it's going to be item followed by the arrow function, browse categories dash item.id. Content container style, margin top is going to be sizes.radius. And lastly, for the render item prop, same thing, item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the category card component, right? The category is going to be item, container style, height is going to be 130, width is going to be sizes.width minus sizes.padding multiplied by 2 minus sizes.radius divided by 2. Alright, so what we are doing here is basically to calculate the width of each of these category, right? Okay, next the margin top should be equals to sizes.radius, and for the margin left, if the index plus 1 modulus 2 equals to 0, then it's going to be sizes.radius. If it's not, then it's going to be sizes.padding. So what we are doing here is basically to check if it is on the second column, which is on the right side over here, then the margin left is going to be sizes.radius. If it's on the left side of the column, which is the first column, then the margin left is going to be sizes.padding. Alright, save it. Perfect. Just that I think I need to add a bit of border radius over here for the category card component. Alright, so open it up. Over here, I'm going to make use of the image style prop. The border radius is going to be sizes.radius. Save it. Sweet. Alright, so we have completed both the top searches and also the browse category section. Next, we are going to work on the search bar over here, where we have the shadow effect surrounding the search bar, followed by a search icon on the left, and also the text input on the right. Okay, so go back to your source code in the search.js file. Over here, we actually need to do a bit of configurations to animate the search bar. Alright, so over here we need to define the scroll Y. So constant scroll Y equals to use shared value, and the initial value is going to be 0. This is actually similar to the animated.value. Okay, so next we need the on scroll, alright, equals to use animated scroll handler event followed by the arrow function, and over here we need to retrieve the event.content offset .y. We need to get the y position and set it to the scroll y.value, right? Next, for the animated.scroll view over here, the on scroll prop is going to be on scroll, like that. So what we are doing here is basically to get the y position, the scroll y position, and set it to the scroll y animated or the shared value over here. Okay, alright, next we are going to render the search bar, and to do that we have to render a new function after the scroll view. So over here we need to render the render search bar function. This one's going to be a search bar, like that. Same thing, we need to create this function over here. So function render search bar, and we are going to return an animated view, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Position is going to be absolute. Top is going to be 50, left is going to be 0, right is going to be 0, and padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding. Let me set the height to 50 for now. I'm going to change it later on because we need to animate the height of the search bar. Alright, now within the animated.view, we are going to render the shadow, okay, for the shadow effect. Alright, now within the shadow component, we need a container view. Give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, flex direction equals to row, align item equals to center. For the width, it's going to be sizes.width minus sizes.padding multiplied by 2. Padding horizontal is going to be sizes.radius. Border radius is going to be sizes.radius as well, and the background color is going to be colors.white. Alright, now save it. Alright, cool, so the search bar container is in place. Next, we need to render the search icon, right? We have the search icon on the left and followed by the text input on the right. Alright, so over here, we are going to render the image component, where the source is going to be icons.search, style will be width 25, height 25, and the tint color it's going to be colors.gray40. Save it. Okay, so the search icon is in place. After this, we are going to render the text input. Alright, so the style flex is going to be 1, margin left is going to be sizes.base, and the font it's going to be H4. Alright, so over here the value is going to be an empty string, placeholder it's going to be search for topics, courses, and educators. Alright, and the placeholder text color is going to be colors.gray. Alright, save it. Alright, cool, so the search bar is in place. All we need to do now is to animate the search bar whenever we scroll up or down of the list. Okay, so over here, right before the return statement, we need to define the input range, which is an array of 0 and 55. And here we need to define the search bar animated style, and we will make use of the use animated style hook like that, arrow function, and over here we are going to return for the height. It's going to be we are going to make use of the interpolate over here based on the scroll y dot value. I'm gonna supply the input range, which is this one over here. Alright, and the output range it's going to be 55 and 0, and lastly it's going to be extrapolate dot claim like that. Alright, next I'm going to include this search bar animated style over here. To do so, we are going to change it to an array like that, and I'm going to supply it over here. Alright, save it. Oops, let me try to refresh the app for a bit. Alright, now navigate to the search screen. And now if we were to scroll through the list, we should be able to animate the height of the search bar. Just like that. Perfect. All we need to do now is to animate the opacity as well. So over here, we can include the opacity. Same thing, interpolate based on the scroll y value. I'm going to supply the input range as well. For the output range, it's going to be 1 and 0. And same thing, extrapolate dot claim. Alright, save it. Now we should be able to animate the height as well as the opacity of the search bar. Sweet. Now there's actually one more thing we need to do before we move on to the profile screen. We do not want the search bar to be hanging halfway like this. Right, so in order to solve this issue, we are going to make use of the on scroll and drag prop. So over here, I'm going to get the event followed by the arrow function. If the event.native event.content offset .y is more than 10 and the event.native event.content offset .y is less than 50, then I'm going to access to the scroll view ref.current, and I would like to scroll to the position of x equals to 0 and y equals to 60. The animated value is going to be true over here because I would like to animate it. Okay, so save it. Now with the help of this prop, our search bar shouldn't be hanging halfway like that. Alright, let me try. Perfect. Sweet. Alright, so that's all for the search screen. Next, we are going to move on to the profile screen. So for the profile screen, we have the header section over here and the content section, which means this whole thing it's going to be wrapped within a scroll view, and within the scroll view we have the profile card over here followed by 2 profile sections. And to make the UI UX a little bit more interesting, we are going to animate these 2 radio buttons as well. Alright, so go back to your source code, open up the profile screen over here, and we are going to import a couple more components from React Native. We need view, text, image, touchable opacity, scroll view, and style sheet like that. Alright, next we need to import from components. Alright, and for this we need icon button, we need text button, and also we need line divider. Alright, and lastly we need to import from constants. And for this, we need colors, fonts, sizes, icons and images. Alright, so first thing first, for the container view over here, we need to give it a bit of styling. The flex should be equals to 1, and the background color should be equals to white, like that. And the first section we need to render over here is the header section. Alright, so go back to your source code, we're gonna get rid of this text component, and we are going to render a new function called render header, right? This is actually the header section. And of course, same thing, we are going to create this function over here. So function render header, we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling. Flex direction should be equals to row. Margin top should be equals to 50. Padding horizontal should be equals to sizes dot padding. Justify content should be equals to space between, like that. Right now over here within the view container view, we have the profile title on the left and followed by the icon button on the right. Okay, so we have a text component on the left. This one's going to be profile, like that, and the font should be H1. Next we have the icon button. The icon is going to be icons.sun, and the icon style, the thin color, should be equals to colors.black. Alright, save it. Perfect, so we have the profile header section in place. Alright, next we are going to wrap the content section within a scroll view. Okay, so scroll down over here. After the header section, we are going to render a scroll view like that, and the content container style, padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding, and padding bottom is going to be 150. Now within the scroll view, the first thing we are going to render is the profile card over here. Okay, so go back to your source code. The first section is going to be the profile card, like that. And we are going to render a new function called render profile card. Right, same thing, we are going to create this function over here. So for this function, we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. Flex direction should be equals to row. Margin top should be equals to sizes.padding. Padding horizontal is going to be sizes.radius. Padding vertical is going to be 20. Border radius is going to be sizes.radius. And background color is going to be colors.primary tree. Alright, now that we have the structure in place, the container view in place, the first thing we are going to render is the profile image section, right? So in order to achieve that, right here it's going to be the profile image. I'm going to make use of the touchable opacity, give it a bit of styling. Width it's going to be 80, and the height is going to be 80 as well. Now within the touchable opacity, we are going to render the image component, right? So over here, the source is going to be images.profile, and the style, width it's going to be 100%, height it's going to be 100% as well. Border radius it's going to be 40, border width it's going to be 1, and the border color it's going to be colors.white. Alright, now try to save it. Perfect, so we have the profile image in place. Next we are going to work on the camera icon over here. Alright, so to do that, after the image component, we are going to render a view with a bit of styling. So position should be equals to absolute. Width it's going to be 100%. Height it's going to be 100%. Align item it's going to be center. And the justify content is going to be flex n. Alright, now over here we need another view to hold the image component later on. Alright, so give it a bit of styling. Width it's going to be 30, height it's going to be 30, margin bottom it's going to be -15, align item it's going to be center, justify content it's going to be center as well, border radius it's going to be 15, and the background color it's going to be colors.primary. Alright, now over here within the view, we are going to render the image component, right? So the source it's going to be icons.camera. Resize mode it's going to be contain. And for the style, width will be 17, and same goes for the height. Alright, save it. Perfect. Alright, so after the profile section, next we are going to work on the details section. Okay, so go back to your source code. After the touchable opacity, we are going to render the detail section. Right, so for this we need a container view with a bit of styling. Flex, it's going to be 1. Margin left, it's going to be sizes.radius, and align item, it's going to be flex start. Right, so the first thing we are going to render for the detail section is the profile name and followed by the title. Alright, so we have two text components over here. So the first one is going to be the profile name. I'm going to just simply hard code it to by programmers, give it a bit of styling. Color, it's going to be white, and the font will be H2. Alright, next it's going to be the title. Right, so I'm actually a full stack developer, so I'm gonna write that down. And the style, color is going to be white, and the font will be body 4, like that. Alright, save it. Next we are going to render the progress bar, and in order to achieve this, we are going to create a custom component. Alright, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we need to create a new file called progress bar. Same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and for this we need view, and also we need to import from constants, and for this we need the colors, like that. And now we can then create the functional component. So constant progress bar equals to, for this component we need two props, so we need container style and progress followed by the arrow function, and over here we are going to return something. Don't forget we need to export default progress bar. Alright, now over here we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. Width, it's going to be 100%. Height, it's going to be 13. Border radius, it's going to be 10. Background color, it's going to be colors.white, and we are going to simply include the container style as well. Alright, so after the container view, we need another view for the progress bar, right? So we need to render another view with a bit of styling as well. Position, it's going to be absolute. Left, it's going to be 0. Height, it's going to be 100%. Width, it's going to be progress. Border radius, it's going to be 10, and the background color is going to be primary. Alright, save it. Next, we need to include the progress bar component in the index file. So over here, I'm going to simply copy and paste it like this and change it to progress bar. Alright, so over here, we need to export it, save it. Now navigate back to the profile screen, scroll to the top. Over here, we need to import progress bar. Right, now navigate back to the profile card section. Over here, after the title, we are going to render the progress, right? So for this, we are going to render the progress component that we have just created. The progress will be 58%, let's say, and container style. For the container style, margin top, it's going to be sizes.radius. Alright, now save it. Oops, I'm sorry, this one has to be progress bar instead of progress. Alright, navigate to profile screen. Perfect. Now after the progress bar, we need to render a couple of text over here. Alright, so after the progress bar component, we need to render a view with a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row. Right, so over here we need a text component. In fact, we need two text components. So for the first one, we are going to render overall progress, right? Give it a bit of styling as well. Flex, it's going to be 1. Color is going to be white. And the font is going to be body 4. Okay, for the second text component, we are going to render 58%. Give it a bit of styling as well. Color is going to be white. And the font is going to be body 4, like that. Alright, save it. Sweet. Now all we need to do is to include the become member button, right? So over here, after the progress bar section, we are going to render the member section. Alright, so for this, we need to render a text button component where the label is going to be plus become member, content container style, height is going to be 35, margin top is going to be sizes.padding, padding horizontal is going to be sizes.radius, border radius it's going to be 20, and background color is going to be colors.white. Alright, next for the label style, color it's going to be primary, like that. Alright, save it. Sweet. Alright, next we are going to work on these two profile sections over here. And since these two profile section container are actually having the same style, I'm going to make use of the style sheet so that we can reuse the style. Alright, so go back to your source code over here. Alright, I've already imported the style sheet. So scroll down right before the export statement. We are going to create the styles like that. Alright, so constant styles equals to style sheet dot create profile section container, margin top is going to be sizes.padding, padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding as well, border width it's going to be 1, border radius it's going to be sizes.radius, and the border color it's going to be colors.gray 20, like that. Alright, now over here, after the profile card section, we are going to render profile section 1, right? Because we have two profile sections over here. Okay, so over here, we are going to render a new function called render profile section 1. Alright, and we are going to create this function over here. Function render profile section 1, and we are going to return a view with a bit of styling, and the style will be styles.profile section container. Alright, now for each of these rows where we have name, email, password, contact number, and so on, we are going to create a custom component called profile value. Right, so go back to your source code in the components folder. We are going to create a new file called profile value. Right, so over here we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native. We need view, text, image, and touchable opacity, right? And next we need to import from constants. And for this we need colors, fonts, sizes, and also icons. Alright, next we can then create the profile value functional component. So constant profile value. And for this component, we need 4 props. So we need icon, label, value, and unpress, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default profile value. Alright, now for the profile value component, we are going to return a touchable opacity, give it a bit of styling. The flex direction should be equals to row, height should be equals to 80, and align item should be equals to center. Alright, and over here, unpress should be equals to unpress. And within the touchable opacity component, we are going to first render the icon, right? So over here, we are going to first render the icon. And for this, we need a view with a bit of styling. Width it's going to be 40, height it's going to be 40, align item it's going to be center, justify content it's going to be center as well, border radius it's going to be 20, and background color it's going to be colors.additional color 11, like that. Alright, now within this container view, we are going to render the icon itself, right? So for that reason, we need the image component, where the source it's going to be icon, resize mode it's going to be contain, and the style width it's going to be 25. Same goes to the height, and the tint color it's going to be colors.primary. Alright, now let's check if it's working properly. So save it. We need to include it in the index.js file as well. So over here, same thing, I'm going to simply copy and paste it, change it to profile value, and I'm going to export it over here. Save it. Now navigate back to the profile screen, scroll to the top. Over here we need to import the profile value, right? And scroll back to the profile section 1, which is this function over here. We are going to return profile value component, and for this the icon it's going to be icons.profile, label it's going to be name, and the value it's going to be by programmers. Alright, now save it. Alright, cool. So the icon is in place. All we need to do now is to work on the label, the value, and also the icon over here. Alright, so go back to the profile value component. After the icon, we are going to render label and value, right? So for this, we need another view with a bit of styling, where the flex should be equals to 1, margin left should be equals to sizes.radius. Alright, and over here, if the label is not equals to an empty string, then we are going to render a text component that renders the label, right? Give it a bit of styling. Color, it's going to be colors.gray30, and the font should be equals to body tree. Alright, so after the label, we need another text component to render the value. Alright, and for this text component, the font should be equals to h3. Alright, now save it. Perfect. Okay, all we need to do now is to render the icon on the right. Okay, so over here, after the label and value section, we are going to render the icon. So for this, we will render the image component, where the source it's going to be icons.right arrow, and the style width it's going to be 15, and the height is going to be 15 as well. Save it. Perfect. Alright, so now we can then navigate back to the profile screen and work on the rest of the profile value. Alright, so after the profile value component, we need to include the line divider. Alright, and after this, we have the email. Alright, so same thing. I'm gonna simply copy and paste it like this. It's a lot faster. Alright, so for this, it's going to be icons.email. Label, it's going to be email, and the value, it's going to be by programmers@gmail.com. Alright, save it. Perfect. I'm gonna duplicate it for the password over here. Alright, so for this, it's going to be icons.password. Label, it's going to be password. Value will be updated 2 weeks ago. Save it. Okay, and next we have the contact number. Alright, same thing. I'm gonna copy and paste it over here. The icon, it's going to be icons.call. Label will be contact number, and the value is going to be some random number, right? Like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so that's all for the profile section 1. Next, we are going to move on to the profile section 2. Alright, so go back to your source code over here. After the section 1, we are going to render profile section 2. Right, for this we need to render a new function called render profile section 2. Right, same thing. We are going to create this function over here, function render profile section 2, and we are going to return a view with the same style, all right, which is styles.profile section container, like that. All right, so the first item we have over here is the pages profile value, just that we need to get rid of the label prop. Okay, so over here we need to render the profile value. Icon, it's going to be icons.star1, and the value it's going to be pages, like that. Right, save it. Okay, now after the pages, we have two items over here with the radio button. So in order to achieve this, we are going to create a new custom component called profile radio button. Alright, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called profile radio button. Same thing, I'm going to import from React. I'm going to import from React Native. And for this, we need view, text, image, touchable opacity, and also animated. We need the animated component so that we can animate the radio button over here. Alright, Next, we need to import from constants. For this, we need colors, fonts, and sizes. Alright, and now for the functional component, constant profile radio button. For this component, we need 4 props: icon, label, is selected, and unpressed, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something, right? Over here, don't forget we need to export default profile radio button. Alright, so for the profile radio button component, we are going to return a view with a bit of styling, where the flag's direction should be equals to row, height should be equals to 80, align item, it's going to be center. Alright, so over here, same thing, we are going to render the icon first. Okay, so we have the icon section, we need a view with a bit of styling, width it's going to be 40, height it's going to be 40, align item it's going to be center, justify content is going to be center, border radius it's going to be 20, and background color it's going to be colors.additional color 11. Alright, now within this view we are going to render the image component. So the source is going to be icon, resize mode it's going to be contain, style, width it's going to be 25, height it's going to be 25, and the tint color is going to be colors.primary. Alright, next I would like to make sure if the component is working properly, so save it, and I'm going to include it in the index.js file. Over here I'm going to simply copy and paste it, change it to profile radio button, and I'm going to export it over here. Alright, save it. Alright, now navigate back to the profile screen, scroll to the top. Over here we need to import the profile radio button. Right, now navigate back to the section 2 function, which is this one over here. After the star we need to render line divider as well, and next we need to render the profile radio button component. Right, so the icon it's going to be icons new icon. Alright, you know what, now that I'm here I'm going to create 2 states to hold the value of these 2 radio buttons. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll to the top. Over here I'm going to create 1 state for the new course notification. Set new course notification equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be false. Alright, next we need another state for study reminder. Alright, so study reminder, set study reminder equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be false as well. Alright, now navigate back to the section 2. Over here the label it's going to be new course notifications, is selected it's going to be new course notification, and whenever I click on this radio button I would like to set new course notification to the opposite of new course notification, like that. Alright, I'm going to duplicate for the study reminder as well, since they are more or less the same. And over here it has to be reminder. Label I will change it to study reminder. Is selected will be study reminder, and over here set study reminder equals to the opposite of study reminder, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so we have the icon in place. Next we are going to work on the label. Okay, so go back to the profile radio button component. After the icon section we are going to render the label. Alright, so for this we need a container view with a bit of styling. Flex should be equals to 1, and margin left should be equals to sizes.radius. Right, and over here we are going to render the text component. Here it's going to be label, and the font will be H3, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Now all we need to do is to work on the radio button over here. Okay, so after the label section, we are going to work on the radio button. Alright, so for this we are going to render a touchable opacity, give it a bit of styling. Width, it's going to be 40, height, it's going to be 40, align item, it's going to be center, justify content, it's going to be center as well, and the on press, it's going to be on press. Alright, now within this touchable opacity, we need to render two more views. One is actually for the line over here, and the other view is for the circle. Alright, so over here we need to render an animated view, animated.view actually. Again, the reason why we need to use the animated components because we would like to animate it. Okay, alright, so for this the style will be width 100%, height will be 5, border radius it's going to be 3, and the background color I'm going to hard code it to, let's say primary for now. Alright, we are going to animate it later on. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so we have the line in place. Next we need to render the circle over here. Alright, so after this we need another animated view, give it a bit of styling. The position should be equals to absolute, left will be 0, I'm gonna hard code it to 0 for now, and we are going to animate it later on as well. Alright, width will be 25, height will be 25, border radius it's going to be 15, border width it's going to be 5, border color I'm going to hard code it to say primary 3. We are going to animate this as well. Okay, and lastly for the background color is going to be white. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. Now all we need to do is to animate the radio buttons. Alright, so in order to do that, scroll to the top over here. Before the return statement, we need to first create an animated value variable. Alright, so constant radio animated equals to react.useRef. Over here it's going to be new animated.value, and the initial value is going to be 0.current. Alright, next we need to set up a use effect hook over here, react.useEffect. This hook will listen to the isSelected prop, like that. Alright, so whenever the isSelected equals to true, we are going to make use of the animated.timing function to change the value of the radio animated. Alright, so over here, animated.timing, radio animated to value 17, duration is going to be 300 millisecond, use native driver is going to be false. Right, don't forget we need the start method over here. Now I'm going to copy this and paste it over here. Alright, so if the isSelected equals to true, then we are going to change the value of the radio animated to 17. However, if the isSelected equals to false, then we are going to change the radio animated to value 0. Now with this in place, we can then make use of the interpolate method to change the color, circle color actually, and also the line color. Alright, so for this, it has to be constant circle color animated equals to radio animated dot interpolate. Over here we have the input range, which is 0 to 17, and the output range will be colors.gray40 to colors.primary. Alright, next for the line color, constant line color animated equals to radio animated dot interpolate. Input range is going to be 0 to 17 as well, and the output range is going to be colors.additional color 4 and colors.additional color 13. Alright, now we can then proceed to animate these two radio buttons. Okay, so scroll to the animated view over here. I'm going to change this to line color animated, and I'm going to change this to radio animated, and this to circle color animated. Alright, now save it. Now if we were to click on the radio button over here, it should animate accordingly. Perfect. Alright guys, and there you have it. We have finally completed the first part of this beautiful online learning app based on a brand new UI design. The full source code for this project is available on shop.byprogrammers.com, and I have included the link in the description below. Now, as a token of appreciation from us, if you were to get the source code from shop.byprogrammers.com before we release the second part of this project, you will be able to get the source code for the subsequent parts entirely for free without any additional charges. Okay, thanks for watching guys. So if you liked the video, we'll be more than happy if you can give it a thumbs up, comment, share to your friends, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I will see you guys in the next video. Happy coding. Peace.